Have you ever boarded a train and never come back? I didn't believe in urban legends, not until the night I vanished. My name is Hasumi, and if you're reading this, I'm already gone. It started like any other night, until the train doors closed. I boarded the train around 11:40 p.m. after working late in Shizuoka. I was tired, hungry, and just wanted to get home. I remember watching the city lights blur past. Then, they vanished. No station announcements. No passengers got off. No one got on. We just kept moving. That's when I noticed I was alone. No conductor. No passengers. The lights began to dim. I called out, nothing. Every time the train slowed down, it never stopped. It just sped up again like it changed its mind. I checked my phone. No service. Just an eerie silence and the distant sound of rails screeching. Finally, the train screeched to a halt. There was no announcement, no station chime. Just a sign outside the window, barely lit by a flickering lamp. Kisaragi Station. A station that doesn't exist. I stepped off. The platform felt wrong. The air was cold, too cold, no vending machines, no ticket booth, no stairs, just the platform and silence. I shouted for help. No echo, not even a breeze. I pulled out my phone. Miraculously, I had just enough signal to get online. I posted on 2channel, a message board. I begged for help. People responded. Some joked, but others, they were scared for me. One person said, "Get back on the train, don't look around." The train was gone. I didn't even hear it leave. Behind me, only the woods. Ahead, a dark tunnel carved into the mountain. I had no choice. So I walked, barely seeing 2 feet ahead. And then, I heard footsteps behind me. Hasumi. It whispered my name. It knew me, but it wasn't human. The voice echoed wrong, like it came from everywhere at once. I ran, blind, deeper into the tunnel, until I saw the end, and a figure standing there, waiting. When I emerged, I wasn't in any town I knew. No buildings, just ancient shrines, twisted trees, and a path that led nowhere. The sky was black, starless. I turned around, the tunnel was gone. Only a stone wall remained. I typed my last post. He's coming. I don't know what it is. It's tall, thin, smiling without a face. I can hear it just outside the trees. Don't ride the late train. And if you see Kisaragi Station, don't get off. They never found me. Not in Shizuoka, not anywhere. But sometimes people say they see someone wandering the woods near the tracks, still in her work clothes, still looking for a way home. I am Hasumi, and this was my last ride. Have you ever stood in a place so silent, it felt like the earth was holding its breath? That's what Mount Osor felt like. But silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it means something is watching, something old and hungry. In 2011, I was backpacking through Japan, a spiritual journey, I told myself. I had read about Mount Osor, called the gateway to hell in folklore, a sacred place where the souls of the dead are said to gather. Naturally, I had to see it for myself. The moment I stepped onto the path, the air changed. Heavy, metallic. The stench of sulfur burned my throat. No birds, no wind, just the hiss of unseen steam vents and the crunch of gravel underfoot. There was one other hiker, a quiet man, mid-30s, camera slung over his shoulder. We exchanged nods. He said he was here for the pits. He wanted a shot of the blue flames said to appear in the mist. We split up. That was the last time I saw him alive. Hours passed, no sign of him. When I returned to the temple station, his pack was still there. A monk said no one had seen him come back. We waited until dark. He never returned. A search team was called in. Dogs, drones, everything. They found nothing. No tracks, no body. Just his camera bag at the edge of an unmarked trail. Inside, an SD card, cracked down the middle. When they recovered the data, there was only one image, blurry, tilted. He must have taken it just before he vanished. It showed the sulfur pits and behind him, a woman, standing perfectly still, smiling, in a white kimono. No one else saw her, but I did. I asked the monks. They grew quiet. One finally whispered, "That is the Enreo, the vengeful spirit. She appears to those who stray." But I didn't stray. So why did she look at me? Why was she smiling? At me? That night I stayed in a nearby lodge. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that serene, twisted smile. And then, sometime after midnight, I heard knocking on my window. I opened the window. Nothing. Just mist. I locked it, crawled back into bed, but as I drifted off, I heard her voice. One path, one step, no return. I woke up gasping, and my door was open. I left first light. I didn't tell anyone. I just walked fast. But at the trailhead, I stopped cold. In the dust were two sets of footprints, mine and hers, bare feet, leading beside mine, right to the shrine. The shrine was old, abandoned, blackened with soot. I don't remember walking inside. I just remember suddenly being there. And she was waiting, not angry, not sad, just expectant. I ran. I don't remember how I got back to the bus stop. I just remember looking back and seeing her standing at the edge of the forest, watching, still smiling, still waiting. I made it out. But I've never really left. Sometimes I find ash on my windowsill. Sometimes my door is unlocked. And sometimes, in the mirror, I see her standing just behind me. They say Mount Osore is the gateway to the afterlife, but I think some gates don't open to let things in. They open to let something out. And once you've seen her, she never lets you forget. If you like these horror stories, please like and share this video and subscribe to the channel for more true horror stories. There was blood on my computer screen. Real blood, wet, thick, smeared across the glass like a hand had dragged itself across it. But I was alone. No one else was in the room. The door was locked, and the voice was still whispering from the speakers. "Do you like the Red Room?" I should have never clicked it. You've probably heard the story before. The Red Room Curse. It was an old Japanese internet legend. Supposedly, if a pop-up appeared on your computer asking, "Do you like the Red Room?" you were cursed. The pop-up would close itself, no matter how many times you tried to shut it. And everyone who saw it died. Some people said it was just a flash animation. Others said it was a demon. But there was one real case that made it infamous. A middle schooler in Tokyo who saw the pop-up then murdered his own family. He wrote on the wall in blood, "The Red Room is open." I never believed in it. To me, it was just one of those old internet stories, like Slender Man or The Rake. Until my friend Koda dared me. We were hanging out after school, watching creepy videos in his room. He pulled up an old site, ancient, glitchy, written in Japanese. He said, "Want to try it? Let's see if the Red Room pops up." And I, like an idiot, said yes. It didn't happen at first. We clicked through a bunch of weird links, most of them dead. But just as we were about to give up, it popped up. "Do you like the Red Room?" Red background, white text. No exit button. Koda laughed nervously. I tried to close the window. It didn't work. Then the speakers whispered, a voice, female, low and broken. "Do you like the Red Room?" Koda's smile vanished. His eyes went wide like he saw something behind me. He whispered, "There's someone in the room." I turned. Nothing. But when I turned back, the screen had changed. It now showed a list of names. Mine was at the bottom. The screen flickered, then showed a room, completely red. Red floor, red walls, red ceiling. And in the middle of it, a woman. Her back was to the camera. Her long black hair was soaked like she'd just come from the rain. She turned slowly. No eyes, no mouth. Just smooth, pale skin where her face should have been. Then she screamed. The laptop shut itself off. Just black. Koda was gone. No joke. He wasn't in the room. Door still locked, window still closed. But his phone was on the desk, still warm. and on the screen, a message, "You're next." I told myself it wasn't real. Coda had to be messing with me, but the red room wouldn't leave my head. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. Every time I blinked, I saw that woman's face, or what should have been her face. And I kept hearing it. "Do you like the red room?" Even when my speakers were off. One night, I woke up to scratching, coming from my monitor. Not the speakers, the actual glass. When I turned it on, there was a handprint on the inside, bloody, smearing down the inside of the screen. Then more appeared, dripping, and a voice whispered behind me, so close I felt breath on my neck. "She's almost here." I couldn't take it anymore. I opened the laptop, one last time. The red room was waiting. The woman was closer now, right at the screen. I reached to shut it, but my hand moved on its own. I clicked, and I smiled. Not because I wanted to, because she wanted me to. They found me 3 days later, sitting in front of the screen, smiling, whispering the same thing over and over. "Do you like the red room?" And now, you've heard it too. You've imagined it. You saw her in your head. That's how it starts. Go ahead, turn off your screen, try to forget, but when the pop-up appears, don't click. When I saw the photo, I dropped it. My hands were shaking. It was me, from behind, taken in the forest. The thing is, I was completely alone. I've explored haunted places all over the world, but nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for Japan's Aokigahara forest. They call it the suicide forest. Dense, silent, a place where Selvis dies, and so do people. I had one rule for this trip: never go off trail. And of course, I broke it. I wandered off the trail, camera in hand, looking for the perfect shot. That's when I saw it, a blue tent, weathered, partially hidden behind a fallen log. Someone had camped here, or was still camping, but I didn't hear a sound, no footsteps, no voices, just wind through dead branches. I called out. Nothing. I tapped the tent with my boot, no movement. Carefully, I unzipped it. Inside were clothes, a water bottle, a notebook, but no person. It felt wrong. Like whoever was here left in a hurry, or never left at all. I backed away. Every step I took, the silence got heavier. I started filming again, trying to shake the unease. But as I turned my camera to face the trees, I swore I saw movement. A shadow between trunks. Gone the moment I blinked, and then came the feeling, like ice on the back of my neck. Someone, or something, was watching me. I told myself it was my imagination. Maybe another hiker. Maybe nothing. So I left. Fast. I marked the GPS so I could report the tent to authorities later. But something pulled at me, and I did something I regret. I went back. Hours later, the light was fading. When I returned to the tent, it was zipped shut, completely, from the inside. I hadn't zipped it. I was sure of that. And then I saw it. On top of my backpack, placed there deliberately, was a photograph. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was a picture of me. Taken from behind, standing in front of the tent earlier that day. But I had been alone. My hands went cold. I scanned the trees, turning in slow circles. There was no one there, but I could feel them. That was it. I was done. I stuffed the photo into my jacket and ran. I didn't care about gear or shots. I just ran. But every few seconds, I thought I heard footsteps, matching mine, but slightly delayed, like someone mimicking me, just a few paces behind. When I finally stumbled out of the trees, the sun had almost set. I didn't stop until I reached the parking lot. And even then, I didn't feel safe. It felt like something followed me and waited, just behind the tree line. Watching, I reviewed the footage when I got home. None of it made sense. No shadows, no photos, nothing strange on tape, except one thing. Exactly 3 frames, less than a second, where someone appears behind me. Pale, no face, just standing there. And then gone. I never posted the video. I deleted everything. burned the photo. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I feel it again, that cold spot behind my neck, that stillness, like someone's there watching and waiting. They say the camera never lies. But what if the camera shows you something that shouldn't be possible? I watched her step into the elevator. I watched the doors open on the 7th floor, and I watched as nobody came out. Back then, I was working security night shifts at a mid-range apartment building in Shibuya. It was a quiet place, nothing more exciting than noise complaints. Until that week, we just installed a new CCTV system in the elevators. High definition. Motion-triggered recording. Perfect clarity. April 3rd, the girl, maybe 17, in uniform, walks into the lobby, expression blank. She doesn't look at the camera. She doesn't look at the security guard. She presses the button, waits, steps in. We see the numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7. The doors open, and no one leaves. The next morning, the front desk clerk mentioned something odd. Someone's mail was scattered outside apartment 704. No one answered the door. I reviewed the footage. I watched her again and again. She never came out. I took the elevator up myself. My key gave me access to every floor. When I reached the 7th, nothing. Lights flickered overhead, no sign of the girl. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. Just the mail scattered in front of 704. But here's the part I didn't understand. Even after she vanished, the elevator kept recording. People came and went. But for 3 more days, her reflection stayed in the mirror. Even when the elevator was empty, I tried to explain it away. Glitch in the feed, some kind of overlay. But when I showed the footage to my supervisor, he went pale. He told me something I can never forget. That apartment, 704, has been vacant since 2014. We checked records. No girl matching her description had ever lived there. No visitors logged, no deliveries. It was like she didn't exist. And yet, I saw her. So did the camera. That week, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that mirror. Saw her still standing there. And sometimes, I swear she was looking at me. Her head tilted ever so slightly toward the lens. On the 4th night, the reflection vanished. No fade, no distortion. 1 second she was there, the next, gone. And on that same night, the elevator got stuck between floors. Emergency call, a woman screaming. When we forced it open, it was empty. I quit 2 days later, but I had to ride the elevator one last time. The moment the doors closed, it felt wrong, like something was behind me. And I swear I heard a whisper, just one word, wait. The building is still there. Unit 704 is still vacant, and sometimes, if you ask the night guards, they'll show you. The footage, the girl, the mirror, but they'll never look at it for too long. Maybe she was never really there, or maybe she was trapped. Not in the building, not on the 7th floor, but in the reflection, watching, waiting for someone to notice her, for someone to look too long. If you ever find yourself alone in a mirror-lined elevator, don't stare too hard, because some reflections look back. Have you ever heard a doll cry? Not pretend crying, not some battery-operated toy. I mean real tears rolling down porcelain cheeks. I didn't believe it either, until I saw it myself in the wreckage of a little girl's home in Iwate. It was the summer of 2011. I was one of many volunteers sent to help with cleanup after the tsunami. I had no idea what I'd find buried beneath the destruction. The house was barely standing, cracked walls, a collapsed roof, and silence, until we found her. We found the doll under a broken dresser. She had long black hair, a red kimono stained with mud, and glassy eyes that almost looked wet. The older local with us, he turned pale the moment he saw it. That night, back at the volunteer center, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that doll. Around 2 a.m., I swear I heard whispering right outside my room. It sounded like a child humming. Then came the soft creak of a door, but no one else heard it. The next morning, the old man pulled me aside. He said the house where we found the doll used to belong to a girl named Emiko. She died in the tsunami. Her parents never found her body. But sometimes people said they heard her crying, and that her doll moved on its own. That evening I heard it again, this time louder. We were sorting debris when I heard sobbing, high-pitched, heartbroken. I followed the sound to our storage tent. There, on a pile of salvaged items, was the doll, and she was crying, real wet tears falling onto her stained kimono. We decided to lock her in a supply box overnight. I double-checked it myself, but by morning the box was open. Not broken, just opened, and the doll was sitting on a table on the other side of the room, facing the door, waiting. One night, after a storm rolled through, I found muddy footprints in the hallway, small ones, like a child's. They led from the supply room to my bed, but no one else saw them. I cleaned them myself, but the next night, they came back. I started dreaming of her, Emiko, standing at the shoreline, soaked, pointing toward the wreckage. "She's still there," she whispered. "You took her away." I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat. Every night it got worse, like something was in my room, watching. The old man came again, this time with a priest. They said the doll should have been laid to rest. "It carries her sorrow," the priest said. "Her soul is trapped inside." They built a small shrine and placed the doll inside it. But the air, it felt heavier, not lighter. That final night, the whispering returned, louder, desperate. I woke to see the doll at the foot of my bed. Her mouth was moving, her eyes rolled back. Then she screamed, not just a cry, a scream like something drowning, like lungs filling with salt water. They said I screamed so loud I woke the entire center. I don't remember. They found me passed out, bleeding from my nose. The doll was gone, vanished. Only the muddy prints remained, leading out the door and stopping in the middle of the hall. I left Iwate the next day. I never went back. But sometimes I still hear her cry, late at night, when it rains, like she's still searching for her home, or maybe just for someone to listen. So if you ever find an old doll with tear-streaked cheeks, don't pick it up. Not unless you're ready to carry someone else's grief forever. If you walk into the Kiyotaki Tunnel in Fukuoka, you might not come back out. At least, not in the same way. I still don't understand what happened that night. One of us vanished. And to this day, no one, not the police, not the search teams, not even his family, has any idea where he went. But I know. I was there. I saw it. And I wish I hadn't. It started as a dare. There were 5 of us. Me, Hiro, Soda, Mika, and Daiki. We were bored teens looking for a thrill. We'd heard the stories about Kiyotaki Tunnel, that it messes with time, that people come out different. So naturally, we had to see for ourselves. We brought flashlights, snacks, and Soda had a camera to vlog the whole thing. We didn't know we were filming a disappearance. As soon as we stepped inside, everything felt off. The temperature dropped. Our flashlights flickered even though they were brand new. The air was thick, like breathing soup, and the deeper we went, the more distant the world behind us felt, like we were walking away from reality. Hiro checked his phone. 8:03 p.m. We hadn't been walking more than 10 minutes, but suddenly it felt like the walls stretched. The tunnel grew longer. Our footsteps echoed too much, like we were being followed by more than just our own feet. And then Hiro checked again. 12 a.m. "What the hell?" he whispered. No one had signal. Then we heard it. A whisper, soft like someone calling from far away. "Help," we all froze. "Did you hear that?" Daiki said. It It was coming from behind us. We turned around and saw nothing, but Soda's camera caught something. A hand slipping into the wall. Soda ran toward where the whisper came from. "Wait!" I shouted. He vanished around a bend. We chased after him, but the tunnel didn't turn. It just kept going straight, and he was gone. We screamed for him, our voices swallowed. Only silence answered. And when we turned back, the entrance was gone. We ran and ran and ran. Same walls, same graffiti. We passed the same crushed soda can 5 times. We were trapped. And then, a figure ahead, walking slowly. It looked like Soda, but something was off. His body moved wrong, like a puppet with tangled strings. "Soda?" He didn't answer. He just turned his head slowly and grinned. His mouth stretched too wide, his eyes empty black pits. Mika screamed, and suddenly everything blinked, like a strobe. We were back at the entrance, only it was night. It was 2:27 a.m. 5 hours had passed, but it felt like maybe 30 minutes, and Sota wasn't with us. We ran to the nearest police station. They searched the tunnel, drones, dogs, teams. They found nothing, just a normal tunnel, no cracks, no graffiti, no sign we were ever there. Later we checked the footage on Soda's camera. Only one clip remained. 23 seconds, static. Then Soda's face, whispering, "If you see this, don't go in. The tunnel doesn't let you go." Not really. Then a scream and static. It's been 3 years. Soda was never found, and I haven't been the same since. Sometimes at night I hear footsteps outside my room. Sometimes I hear whispers in my dreams, and sometimes I see his face, smiling. If you ever visit Fukuoka, don't go near the tunnel. It remembers you, even if you forget it. Have you ever driven someone who didn't exist? I did, and I still remember the cold weight of her presence in the back seat. I'm not the only one either. In Ishinomaki, after the tsunami, this started happening to several drivers. We talked about it in hushed voices. Some laughed it off, others quit driving altogether. But for me, it started on a rainy night, when a girl in a soaked school uniform flagged me down on a road that hadn't existed for years. I didn't think much at first, just another late-night fare. She got in without a word. I asked her where to, and she whispered something I couldn't catch. I turned, gently asked again. She didn't look up, just said Minamihama. That chilled me. Minamihama was completely wiped off the map in 2011. No one lived there anymore. Nothing stood but debris, broken concrete, and rusted metal. I almost told her I couldn't take her there. But something in her voice... I couldn't say no. The drive was silent. As we got closer to Minamihama, the roads got worse. No lights, no houses, just the shells of buildings, flattened like paper. And yet, I could swear I saw shadows moving. Not animals, not people, just figures darting at the edge of my headlights. When we reached what used to be a small neighborhood, I stopped. "We're here," I said, not even sure why. She didn't respond. I looked back, and my chest locked up. The seat was empty, but the cushion was soaked, dripping wet, and on the window behind her seat, there was a handprint on the inside. I sat there frozen. My radio crackled, and I jumped. I looked down to log the ride, and there it was. A fare slip had printed from the machine. No money, no signature, just one word on the remarks section, Ghost. That's not something I typed, that's not something the machine could even print. There's no preset for that. I thought I was losing my mind. Until I talked to another driver at the station. He looked at me for a long time and then said, "You too?" Turns out it was happening to all of us. People who weren't people. Riders who vanished when we got there, always asking for places that didn't exist anymore. One guy said he picked up an older woman in white, traditional dress, hair in a neat bun. She was quiet, polite, smiling. She asked to go to a beach that no longer existed. He said when they got there, she said, "Thank you for bringing me home." Then she stepped out, and walked straight into the ocean. After a while, I stopped telling anyone, but I kept driving. One night, I picked up a man in a business suit. He looked normal, too normal. No water, no whispering. But when I glanced at him in the mirror, he had no reflection. And he was smiling. I drove him to his destination. I didn't ask questions. I didn't speak. When I stopped, I didn't look back. I didn't want to see what wasn't there. I just waited. A few minutes later, the door opened, then shut. I turned around. He was gone. But this time there were no wet seats, just a photo left behind. It was a family standing outside a house in Minamihama. In the middle was the man I had just dropped off, and the date on the back of the photo, March 10th, 2011. In Ishinomaki, sometimes the dead still need a ride. And if you're ever in a taxi late at night, don't ask who else has ridden there before you. Just pray they got where they needed to go. I still remember the sound, a thud so loud it echoed through the alleyways of Osaka. When I ran to my window, there was a man, crumpled, broken, 10 stories below. He had fallen from my apartment, and I had only just moved out the week before. It started as a fresh chapter. I had just moved to Osaka for work, new job, new city, new apartment. The building was old, tucked between a ramen shop and a silent alley. My unit, 10th floor. A little cramped, but the view made up for it, or at least it used to. One night I was brushing my teeth when I glanced at the window. There was a face, pale, long black hair, just floating outside my window. I froze. There's no balcony, no ledge, just open air and a girl staring back at me. I blinked and she was gone. I stood there, heart pounding in my throat, wondering if I imagined it. I barely slept that night. Every creak, every gust of wind, I thought she'd come back. But nothing happened. Not for a while. A week later, I decided to record while I slept. I set up my phone facing the window, just to prove I wasn't going crazy. What I caught still makes my skin crawl. Around 2:17 a.m., the curtains parted slightly, and that same face, the girl with no eyes, was staring right into the lens. After that, things got worse. Scratches appeared on the inside of the window pane. I'd wake up to find it open, even though I locked it every night. And once, I swear I heard breathing, right next to my ear. One night, an old woman from 2 floors down knocked on my door. She said she saw someone standing outside my window the night before. "That girl comes back," she whispered. "Same one that drove the last tenant mad." Then she handed me a photo, a grainy image, of that same face in someone else's window. I packed that night. I didn't care about the deposit. I just left. I moved in with a friend across the city. For a week I tried to forget. But then I got the news. The man who moved into that apartment after me, he fell. 10 stories. Out the same window. They ruled it a suicide. But I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. In the last frame of my video, right before the face disappears, there's a hand pressed against the glass, but it's from the inside. They say she was a girl who lived there before, years ago. She jumped from that same window. Some say she never left, that she waits for the next tenant. Sometimes I dream I'm still in that room, and the window is open, and she's back. Have you ever seen something that made you question if you were still awake or already trapped in a nightmare? I have, and after what happened in Nagano, I don't sleep without the lights on anymore. It started last spring. I'm a home renovator by trade, and an older Japanese man hired me to restore his family's centuries-old house in the rural outskirts of Nagano. The place had been abandoned since the 1970s. Untouched, dust-laden, and full of secrets. He didn't say much, just handed me the keys and said, "Be respectful of the house, and don't dig too deep." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. 3 days into stripping the walls in the main room, I noticed something strange. One panel didn't quite match. The wood was newer, almost deliberately placed. When I pried it off, I found a narrow, hidden staircase leading down, pitch black, steep and silent like a grave. There was no record of a basement. I should have stopped, but I didn't. I went down with a flashlight. The basement smelled like mold and metal. Then I saw it. The room was lined with wooden shelves, hundreds of small dolls, each nailed to the wood through their limbs and heads. Their faces were hand-carved, all slightly different. Some looked sad, others angry. On the floor were dozens of rotting fruit offerings, melted candles, and bones. Real bones. In the center was a shrine, blackened wood, a bowl filled with blood-red water, and a mirror so old the reflection twisted your face. Just as I turned to leave, my flashlight flickered, and that's when I saw her. In the far corner, crouched in the darkness, was a woman in a torn white kimono, her long black hair matted and hanging like seaweed. Her mouth was sewn shut, yet somehow she was whispering. Her eyes locked onto mine, and she said, "You saw too much." I ran. I don't even remember getting back up the stairs, but I must have, because I woke up the next morning lying on the floor of the main room, the wall I broke through, sealed again, as if it had never been touched. The staircase was gone. That night, the dream came. I was back in the basement. The dolls were twitching, their heads turning slowly to look at me. The mirror cracked, and from it the woman crawled out, dragging threads from her sewn mouth behind her like a web. She got close. I couldn't move. She leaned in and whispered, "You saw too much. Now, they see you." I quit the next morning. I didn't even ask for payment. I packed my tools and left a note that said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know." The old man never called me again. In fact, no one has touched that house since. Locals say it's cursed, that it was once a home for a woman accused of being a Miko who cursed those who disrespected her shrine. I never found her name, but sometimes late at night, I still hear that whisper. You saw too much. If you're ever hired to restore an old house in the mountains of Nagano, don't open walls that aren't meant to be opened. Some things aren't hidden to be found. They're hidden to stay buried. And if you ever hear whispering in your dreams, don't listen. Trust me. I already did.